Hi, it's me, Emir, and I thought I might read you something on this bright and beautiful morning. I think it's Thursday, and I'm gonna read you something from one of my favorite writers of all time, Malaysian writer, journalist, social commentator, Salleh bin Joned. In his book, his compilation of essays titled As I Please. And the reason why this was titled As I Please was because of his tribute to George Orwell, who had the exact same title for his article that he used to write in the Times in the United Kingdom. Salleh has said that if it was up to him, really, the name of this book would have been As and When I Please. Anyway, I'll read you one of my one of my favorite articles from this book, and it's called The Art of Pissing. It's an open letter to Redza Piyadasa. Now, Redza Piyadasa is, was a celebrated artist and art curator here in Malaysia. Um, he is obviously very highly regarded in the art scene. What I find so particularly interesting with this um, article and open letter is that Salleh is actually addressing Redza and dissing him in a sense. Well, not in a sense, but he. What happened was he pissed on one of his art installations. It was housed in one of the art galleries in KL back in the 1974. So this was his reply um, to the very act of him pissing on the installation, and this whole letter was published in the monthly art magazine. So, anyways, I'll read you this article. The Art of Pissing, an open letter to Redza Piyadasa. The introductory note reads: the incident that is the subject of this open letter to one of the most vocal artists and art critics in Malaysia occurred in 1974. The setting was an exhibition frighteningly called Towards a Mythical Reality held at Sudut Pedulis, Writer's Corner, at the Dewan of the Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka. It consisted of found objects, a half-empty Coca-Cola bottle, a dirt-abandoned raincoat found on some rubbish heap, a half-burned mosquito coil, and that sort of thing. It was accompanied by a manic manifesto full of abstractions, capital letters, and exclamation marks. There were about 50 people, artists, writers, and students, in that corner to witness my little gesture of friendly protest. The incident went unreported in the press. I was told that somebody or other had managed to have it hushed up, and I, having made a public exhibition of myself in that hallway corner, was not about to make another one in the media. The incident would have remained a lost footnote in the history of modern Malaysian art if, about a year later, Redza Piyadasa, bless his soul, had not challenged the perpetrator, individu was the word he used, of the sacrilegious act to explain the rationale of that act. This challenge occurred in the course of a debate in Dewan Sastra on the direction of a modern Malaysian art between Piyadasa, Siti Zainal Ismail, and one or two others. It was a challenge I had been waiting for. My open letter was published uncut, title and all, in the July 1975 issue of Dewan Sastra. For this, I have Usman Awang, then editor of the magazine, to thank. There was some faint resistance to certain parts of the letter at first, and I remember having to argue quite vociferously in defense of the title I had chosen, Kencing dan Kesenian, or Pissing and Art. But Usman, as editor, was a true gentleman who was willing to listen to argument. I don't know what my kurang ajar, ill-mannered act was worth, if it was worth anything, from the point of view of history of Malaysian art. This is for our art historians to judge. I note that the distinguished art historian T.K. Sabapati has a flattering comment on my letter and even quotes from it in his introduction to Modern Artists of Malaysia, 1983, which he co-authored with Piyadasa. But from Sabapati's comments, you wouldn't know anything about the incident that provoked the open letter he refers to. I sometimes wonder what the silence here means. What is the point of reprinting this letter? Am I not content that the incident has passed into the folklore of Kuala Lumpur Underground, and that I have, by a simple act of unzipping my trousers and zipping up my mouth, attained minor Malaysian immortality? I must admit that some inherited perversity makes me rather fond of the smell of the past, and the mystical reality incident has certainly pursued me. To echo the words of an Australian poet about a notorious poem of his published in his youth, like a familiar bad smell. Yes, what's the point? Well, I would say that the points raised in the letter have more than topical relevance. If asked to sum up its significance in one sentence, I'd say it defends what I see as the true values of art and intelligence against the pretentious, the false, and the fashionable. And the target of the letter is an artist of no means standing in this country whose mystical reality thing, both manifesto and exhibition, is considered by Sabapati a significant event in the history of Malaysian art. As for the pissing act itself, I still consider it, to put it in the language of Asian courtesy and modesty, as much a breakthrough in the history of modern Malaysian art as the exhibition called Towards a Mystical Reality. I start by quoting this poem by the Gateless Gate, in the Gateless Gate, from the Gateless Gate by Ikai. A dunce once searched for a fire with a lighted lantern. Had he known what the fire was, he could have cooked his rice much sooner. Dear Pia, whenever I open my big mouth, people say vulgarities and obscenities pour out. When I unzip my trousers, they say I sully my self-respect. That Salleh fellow, is he ever serious? Pissing, being vulgar and obscene. That's the only thing he's good at. How disappointing when one thinks of our Eastern values, blah blah blah. Alright, Pia. This time I'll be a good Easterner. And you, I hope, will be a good listener. I accept your challenge that the individual who membuang air, literally threw away water, for example, urinated, at your exhibition towards a mystical reality should come forward to explain the rationale of this act. Actually, I've been waiting for quite some time for this opportunity to explain an act that a lot of people seem to have completely misunderstood. To set out my real attitude to your exhibition and to the manifesto that you accompanied it. Let me begin with two observations, which don't really require much elaboration, and two admissions which will be explained and defended later. First observation. Our artists, that includes writers and intellectuals, tend to be a whole solemn lot. They tend to confuse solemnity with seriousness, verbosity with intellectual breadth, and pomposity with depth. This tendency often goes with egotism and embarrassingly acute sense of their own importance. And needless to say, this being Malaysia, it has to be said, of course, it also goes with shallowness of mind. The most noticeable thing about our contemporary